What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of Player Ratings as Spurs lost 1-0 to AC Milan at the San Siro in the first leg of the last 16 of the Champions League. And let's get straight into it, starting with Fraser Forster, sevens all round from us. And it was a kind of largely untesting day for Fraser Forster, but when called into action I thought he did well, especially with the goal that we did concede. Made a brilliant double save and really got close to that third one as well, but just unfortunate that no defenders were reacting first when it did fall to Brahim Diaz. But I thought Fraser Forster in all had a fairly good game.
Yeah, nothing too much to complain about. I thought he was pretty good from when he coming for corners and crosses and things like that. Obviously, was largely untested throughout the game. Literally, there was 3 shots on target right at the beginning of the game. That's all he had to face in terms of shots on target. So he was unfortunate. Maybe the second one, which was a miraculous save from Diaz, wasn't reacted to by defenders to make it worthwhile. But other than that early bit of save making, not too much of a note to be called upon. So I thought it was a decent game in the end.
Moving on to Emerson Royale, right wing back, sevens all round from us. And I thought Emerson had a really good game. Again, defensively on point. He was nothing really came down his way for the majority of the game, and he was really coming into that midfielder to make a kind of midfield 3 at times, with helping up Sarr and Skip in the midfield, and he was doing well at that. But once again, it's the flaws that we all know about with Emerson Royale. Going forward, I thought he was left wanting more times than not, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought he probably played fairly well a few throughout the game for his level. I thought there was one moment, especially in the second half, where he had to ride 3 challenges and just kept going with his aggression, and ended up putting a really good cross into Kane, where it was just cut out when he won a corner. And there were some good bits like that by Emerson, but ultimately in the final third there was a lack of quality, in all honesty, when it came to finding Kulusevski and Kane and people like that. But defensively, I thought he was sound. I thought he dealt with Leao fairly well, although Leao was giving us a bit of trouble. I thought he was decent, standing up to that challenge. So good display again by Emerson in my book.
Moving on to Cuti Romero, Sim gives him a 6, I gave him a 5, and he was the player that we were really excited to come back into this team in that back 3 to make it stronger, which he did, to be fair. But I actually thought he was probably our weakest defender on the day. The goal that we conceded was largely down to him, how Theo Hernandez broke down on that side. There was a couple of other times where Hernandez did get the better of him, and Diaz as well. But apart from that, he had a fine game, but he did get beaten quite a few times yesterday.
Yeah, that was all in the first half. Really early in the game, he was looking like struggling with Hernandez's pace, but I think he grew into it fairly well. His passing was okay, a bit slack at times, but I thought in the end it was pretty average display. But I thought it was okay. Nothing. Giroud was pretty quiet the whole game, wasn't really a threat, so that's a positive.
Yeah, moving on to Eric Dyer, 6s all round from us, and much better than he was at Leicester, but that's not saying much. And look, AC Milan hardly had a shot on goal, and I thought he shackled Giroud fairly well and was playing some nice passes out the back, so I'm fairly happy with Dyer in this game.
Yeah, he was alright. Should have really scored from a corner in the second half. Late in the game, he headed into the ground, was a big opportunity for him. But I thought by and large a big improvement, although was tested very differently against AC Milan. And Giroud was trying to get into the game, and I think Dyer was a large part as to why he didn't.
And then to make up that back 3, or the final of the back 3, was Clement Longley, 6s all round from us. Again, nothing really got past his side. I thought we defended for the most part really well throughout the game, and he was a part of that. Did nearly put it in his own net at some point in the second half, which was a really hairy moment. But he was coming out, playing some really nice balls, and he was out of the 3 defenders. I thought he was the one really trying to make the issue going forward.
Yeah, he was the one actually getting forward, but I actually thought his passing was pretty disappointing. I thought it could have been better. A number of times he played an early ball down the left-hand side looking for Son, and it was out of play, or it was just inaccurate, and that was disappointing for me. But I thought defensively he was pretty sound. He was getting into dangerous areas and looking to help out the attack when possible. So I think he was pretty decent.
Yeah, and Ivan Perisic next on the left wing back, 6 from Perisic and a 6 from Sim and 5 from me. For me, I think, look, he defended well for the majority of the game and didn't let the occasion overawe him, like maybe not the occasion because he's a very experienced player, but sometimes he lets attacking players really get past him time and time again. That didn't happen in this game, but where I was kind of let down from Perisic in the game is his attacking threat, which we know for the most part of the season he's been brilliant at his attacking threat, not so good defensively. This was kind of the polar opposite, and it kind of has been like that the last couple of games with Perisic, to be fair. He's not doing enough going forward. His crossing isn't on point as it has been maybe in the first half of the season.
Yeah, and I'm a bit worried about his lack of ability to take people on. Whereas at the beginning of the season, he seemed to be maybe he wasn't beating people time after time, but he was definitely taking people on and getting quite a bit of joy. And now in this second part of the season, I don't know if it's a confidence thing, but doesn't seem to be taking people on, and when he does, he seems to be losing out a lot of the time. And now it's definitely a case. I think definitely a lot better defensively than he was on against Leicester, or maybe more of the same like he was against Man City. So that was good, but offensively, his taking on and dribble and crossing wasn't that great.
All right, let's move on to the midfield. And I called it before the game. I was saying, since I got on that plane to Milan, we're only coming here for a Skippy and Sarr masterclass, and that is exactly what we got. Let's start off with Ollie Skipp. 8s all round from us. A really industrious display, really getting back to those levels he was showing before that injury under Nuno in the early stages of Antonio Conte. The amount of times he was winning the ball back, hard challenges, looked really on it right from the off, our Ollie Skipp did. So really good response to maybe the poor form he has been showing this season. He came on with a really nice cameo against Preston, but this was another level.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. A lot sharper than maybe he has been all season. Looked very confident as well, and we needed him to be strong in the challenge and made sure that they won that midfield battle, and we really did, which allowed us to maintain control of the game. I thought he was really smart in a lot of his movements as well. On the ball, maybe could have done a bit better, but he was definitely a lot more confident than he has been. But as obviously his off the ball quality, which is one of his main strengths, was on point yesterday. So I was really, really positive from Ollie Skipp, and hopefully he can push on from that from now to the end of the season.
Yeah, and Pape Matar Sarr, 9s all round from us. I mean, it's absolutely a brilliant display. Like I keep saying, I've been banging the Pape Sarr drum since he broke into the team against Crystal Palace with that cameo, and his performances have gotten better and better and better. Doesn't matter what occasion he gets thrown into, North London derby, Champions League in the San Siro, he just rises to the occasion. And last night was no different, and he put in his best display in a Spurs shirt, although he hasn't had too many. But for such a young player, he's so mature, such a mature head on him. He gets around the pitch, he's so athletic. He was getting on the ball and showing maybe what Skipp was lacking on the ball, Sarr was showing on the ball. But what I want to see a bit more from Sarr is getting a bit higher up the pitch and pressing like Bentancur does, because I think that's what we're missing when Bentancur isn't on the pitch. But nonetheless, it was an absolutely brilliant performance, and a really dogged display as well, as was with Skipp. And I really like the dynamic of both of them two together.
Yeah, I was absolutely delighted with Pape Matar Sarr. I thought he was excellent throughout the game. I thought he really was shining quality on that pitch in that central midfield, on the ball, his timing and winning possession, but as well, he didn't just win it for the sake of it. He was able to keep in and give it to a fellow Tottenham player and allowed Spurs to push up the pitch. He made 5 tackles during the game. He seemed like he was covering every blade of grass. He had the confidence to charge into midfield and not just play a simple pass, but assess his options, have awareness of space and where the space is on the pitch. And I thought his football intelligence on display was absolutely astonishing, and his passing range seemed really, really solid, and he had the confidence to have a couple of pops of goal, and they weren't even the worst. I mean, they're never really going in, but had confidence from 25 yards to give it his best shot. We've seen him for Metz, he's got quite a shot on him, so I was absolutely delighted with Sarr putting in that kind of display, especially just after Bentancur getting injured. He was absolutely fantastic, and hopefully in the storm that was Bentancur's injury, there's just a bit of light now with Sarr coming through, and maybe it can really help his development having this run of games.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you're saying about the shots, because I was calling for it through the game. Like, you saw the keeper, their keeper's not the most comfortable of goalkeepers, 37 years of age, So I was calling on Spurs just to test him, have a pop, and he was the only one really doing that. And there was also one moment in the game where it really showed how confident he is, where the ball just came over the top and he tried to catch it on the volley from like 30 yards out, and obviously it didn't go anywhere. I think he might have like just sliced it, or it hit a defender or something. But you just show the confidence to even just try something like that in a game like that. So brilliant performance from Sarr. Hopefully there's a lot more to come from him as well. But let's move on to the front line and let's go to Dejan Kulusevski. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. And it's following on a bit of a theme now with Kulusevski. The last couple of games, struggling to take on his man, beat his man, struggling to show some quality in the final third. And I don't know if I'm starting to worry about Kulusevski just yet, but there is a couple of poor performances now.
Yeah, he seems to be lacking sharpness, which is just a bit strange. I'm not sure why, because I know he's had a lot of injuries this season, but I don't know if he's carrying still a knock or anything. But he seems to be lacking something. He seems to be doing that same move every time, where he gets the ball into feet and he tries to spin around the outside, and it's getting way too easily read right now by defenders. Maybe they've got a plan for it. But what I'm a bit more disappointed in is when he does have the opportunity in the final third at the moment, especially to shoot. He's really struggling to get that power and accuracy in his boots that we know he definitely has, and his shooting seems to just be quite weak attempts right now, and that's quite kind of disappointing. So it's something he's definitely got to work on. Having said that, there are a couple of bright moments, but I think it's overall quite disappointing again by Kulu.
Moving on to Harry Kane, 6s all round from us. I felt he was our brightest attacker on the day out of the front three. He was getting the ball in quite deep areas and trying to do it all his own at times, because the quality around him just wasn't good, but he did end up losing the ball a lot of times. I think he was like I said, the attacker really trying to have the most impact on the game when Son and Kulusevski were fairly anonymous, and he was trying to hold it up, trying to make it stick at times, but he was fighting a losing battle for the most part of the game, really.
Yeah, it seemed like how it plays out with a lot of teams nowadays. Whenever he gets the ball, there's like a swarm of defenders around him looking to make sure it doesn't affect the play, and a few times he was able to wriggle away, and you see it so often. Like, there's a reason why when he's able to wriggle away, there's so much space for the other players around him, and it does set up chances, because whenever he gets the ball, there's like 3 defenders around him trying to make sure he stops the pass or stop him from turning, and he was struggling to really impact it properly. I thought he did do well a few times, but I don't think he had a shot on goal. Or he obviously hit the bar, but that might have been offside from that chance. Other than that, he really didn't have too many goal-scoring opportunities. That will be disappointing. But I did think, in terms of trying to help the team, be that point of reference as Conte said, I think he did a decent job, but didn't do well enough to create any good opportunities.
Yeah, and last but not least, Heung-min Son of the playing staff. Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 4, and unfortunately it's just another poor performance from Heung-min Son. We're just saying this way too often this season. It seems like every single game, to be honest, apart from 1 or 2. And carbon copy yesterday. He was getting the ball, saw quite a bit of the ball, and every time he got it, it was either a loose touch or a bad pass, or when he dribbled, he lost the ball. I mean, he just failing to impact games at the moment. I mean, he did really well against Preston, but that's a championship side. But when he's asked to come up against any sort of Premier League side or any side of real quality, he's just found wanting more times than not, and it's really frustrating watching him week in, week out, when you've got players like Richarlison and Danjuma waiting in the wings to get their chance.
Yeah, and we'll get into Conte in a second, but it's just annoying that they waited. Again, he waited so late to bring them on. But in terms of Son, I thought his ball retention was a tiny bit better than maybe it has been in recent weeks in this game. He wasn't losing it as easily, but he did still lose it quite a few times, which was disappointing. He took a lot of set pieces as well. I think the only one we actually created a chance, I think Perisic took, which for Dyer's header. I think a lot of the time it was Son on over the free kicks, and they pretty much came to nothing every single time. Although I didn't think they were terrible. It wasn't like he was hitting them over or anything, but they just kept getting cleared away. He wasn't able to pick out any Tottenham players, and on the number of occasions we had set pieces, that was pretty disappointing. And from open play, again, didn't really link up with Perisic, didn't get into many shooting opportunities. The only chance he did have, which I haven't seen back, but I'm assuming was offside, when he was strong goal, and then it was a good save from the keeper.
Poor effort though. Like Son usually slots those.
Yeah, confidence on finds the corners there, and right now it's just that confidence just isn't there. So, yeah, you have to say it's another disappointing performance for sure.
All right, and let's finish off on Antonio Conte. 5s all round from us, and I think that it's kind of the way we expected the game to play out, with two fairly defensive sides go against each other. Not really many chances in the game, but I felt like Milan were there for the taking. And going into that second half, being 1-0 down, I really wanted us to show a bit more attacking threat. And if the attacking players on the pitch are not doing it, then they got to be replaced. And we've got attacking players waiting in the wings with Richarlison, Danjuma, Pedro Porro as well. Because yeah, Emerson was having a good game, but I always felt that if Porro was to come on, we would have that bit more attacking influence in the game and really try and hurt them. Because Emerson wasn't hurting them going forward. So I felt like the changes were left way too late once again. But on the flip side, is Conte just thinking, all right, we'll just get out of here with a 1-0 loss and take them back to the lane and try and beat them. But I don't know if that's the right attitude, because I felt like if we would have just thrown a bit of caution to the wind, we could have got a draw or a win out of that game. And Milan were really not good, and I felt that we should have come away from that game with at least a point, or not with at least a draw. So I think you've got to look at Conte for not making the changes early enough, not giving us more of an attacking threat when you can see clearly that Kulusevski and Sonny and Emerson and Perisic really aren't really doing it going forward in this game. So you've got to mark Conte down for that.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually thought in the last few minutes when we had Danjuma and Richarlison, we actually looked a lot more dangerous. Although we, again, still didn't really create too many opportunities. But we went through a bit of a period from like 70 minutes to like 80 minutes or so where we weren't really getting to the penalty area. And then they came on. And all of a sudden we were getting very close again. And all of a sudden like Richarlison was trying to make things happen and trying to find little passes and get shots off. So that was good. I'm a bit frustrated with Conte that he kind of keeps making the same changes. And I can't remember ever Richarlison coming on the right hand side and it actually working and impacting the game positively, but he just keeps doing it. He keeps making that change as if it's going to save us, and it never really has. So I don't understand why he keeps making that making that change. It's quite frustrating, to be honest. If he's going to change that, like maybe, as I say, maybe throw a bit more caution to the wind. Maybe put Porro on the right wing and put Richarlison up front and put Kane just behind, or Kane and Richarlison up front. Go with the two up front like that, or something. Do something different. Whip more crosses in the box like that. Sonny was obviously left on too long as well. He only got taken off, I think, with 5 minutes to go. Danjuma, or maybe 10 minutes to go. Danjuma came on, didn't really have enough time to impact it. Although again looked a bit bright, but didn't have too many touches. Can't really judge. I think overall it was a much tighter display than Leicester. Obviously, we were much more in control of the game. AC Milan were poor. In terms of result, it's poor but not disastrous. Definitely something that we can turn around, go back to the game. But yeah, I think he could have put someone like Porro on for Emerson for the last 15 minutes and really go for it and make sure we got that equaliser. But again, I guess he was just worried about us going for an equaliser, then Leao breaking away and just making it 2-0. And at 2-0, the game is 10 times tougher at Tottenham than at 1-0. So from one point, I kind of get it. I kind of get okay, let's just keep the 1-0. If we get the equaliser, great. If not, it is what it is. It's only 1-0. But part of me is also you could have really tried to go for that equaliser a bit more.
But you know what? In those last 20 minutes, we could have easily been 2 or 3 down. Like, they had chances in those last 20 minutes. And I felt like we needed a tactical switch in those last 20 minutes, in the last half an hour, to really swing momentum in our favour. Because I felt AC Milan, they actually had their best period of the game at that time. And we needed to change something to we were lucky that they didn't score 2 or a second or a third in that period of the game. And one of the changes I want to talk about was Ben Davies coming on for Clement Longley, because we're 1-0 down, we're trying to get a goal, we're pushing for a goal, and you bring on Ben Davies for Longley, which first of all I didn't understand, because Longley is much better going forward than Davies anyway, and he can really provide that killer pass. But that was one of the worst cameos I've seen for a while from Ben Davies. He was shocking when he came on.
Every touch of his was going astray. He actually got into good positions and then just completely wasted them a number of times. He was poor. I understood the sub, to be honest. I think he just wanted to bring more energy to the centre backs so they can kind of get forward more. Because sometimes the centre backs in the Conte system, they can even work very hard and having to run up and down the pitch a lot. And so he wanted to bring energy. So I kind of got it. I wasn't too upset with that, but his cameo was terrible. I have to say, he was just dreadful. And that didn't really help us at all when we're trying to go for an equaliser. But I think Conte's got to rethink. He should have really thought already, but he's just got to think about how to, when he's getting these subs on, how to best use him. Because I just think when we're 1-0 down and he's taking off Kulusevski and bringing on Richarlison and putting on the right wing, it's like, is that really going to change things and help us? And at the moment, it's not.
Exactly. But look, all is not lost. It is only 1-0 at half-time in this last 16 tie. With the way Milan played and the way Spurs played, I am confident that we can take them back to the lane and advance into the next round. But that is our player ratings for the 1-0 defeat in the first leg of the last 16. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on our ratings, and put your ratings in the comment section below as well. This is us over and out from Milan. We'll see you back in the studio tomorrow. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.